Hey guys, Dan World, Mr. Grey, Dandoff the Grey. And we are finally going to look at some UFO videos. Now before we go further, I have been fascinated by UFOs since I was a kid when I first watched the very first episode of X-Files in the very early 90s. I was probably about 12 or 13 years old. And I used to collect these magazines of the unexplained, and the Bob Lazar interview was in there at some point in the 90s, although we didn't know his name back then. But I've been fascinated by UFOs. When it comes to UFOs and aliens, even though I always treat these things with a logical forward thinking, that's the term, I'm one of those who I am in a firm belief that the vastness of the universe, just going on by speed and time alone, there has to be something out there. I know there's that, I think it's called the Fermi paradox, where, we would have seen them by now. I mean, it doesn't mean they didn't happen before us billions of years before, or, they're just too far away, we can't see it. I firmly believe there has to be something out there. I'm not saying they have 2 arms, 2 eyes, 1 nose and all that stuff, but there has to be some form of life out in the universe other than us. I don't think we're it. I think it's a bit egotistical to say we are it. I truly believe that. But on the part of UFOs visiting us, I'm very skeptical. I've seen a lot of stuff over the years. From videos, I've read articles about it. Obviously, governments have released supposed footage of UAP. I mean, they technically are UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. Doesn't mean they're otherworldly, unidentified flying ships. I wish. But I am totally open to that being an absolute possibility. So I thought we'd look at some of the best, supposedly, UFO footage around today and see if we can't break down what's going on. I want to believe, and I also wish Gillian Anderson was my girlfriend, but we can't have everything we always wanted, can we now? So to begin with, before I get into the it's not even breakdown, it's just looking at stuff, right? Reaction, I suppose. Before we get into that, there is one clip I do want to go over because it's the Jellyfish UFO. Now, the Jellyfish UFO footage was originally released by Jeremy Corbell almost 10 months ago now, and it's something which has really interested me for a while. People have had their takes on it. It's a stain, it's a UFO. Those pretty much fall into those brackets, but I want to break down where I think it is and what I think it could possibly be. It's not a debunk, but I'm going to go into some detail of what I think it is. So the description first on Jeremy Corbell's actual channel is: Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp obtained and are revealing for the first time footage of a military filmed UAP incursion within a United States Joint Operations Base. This UAP of an unknown origin displayed transmedium capability and has been officially designated by the United States intelligence agencies as a UAP. This designation is currently maintained. The date of this footage is October 7, 2017. This is during the Iraqi joint operations of the US in Iraq, obviously. And this was filmed over an unknown base. We don't know what the name of the base is. There's a couple you can sort of whittle it down to, but there's no confirmation of what the name of the base was. The description is: an incursion by an object of unknown origin was filmed at the United States Joint Operations Base in Iraq. The object was designated UAP and was tracked for a durational period. The object moved through a sensitive military installation and eventually traversed over a body of water where it actuated a controlled descent. Now that's interesting, which we'll get to. Submerging into the water. After an observational period of about 17 minutes, the UAP re-emerged from the body of water and shot off at an extreme rate of speed, beyond the optical scope of the observation platform. The origin, intent, and capability of the anomalous aerial vehicle remains unknown. Official designation remains UAP. Now these are the details of the supposed eyewitness and the raw footage that people have seen. The UAP displayed transmedium capability. The UAP was filmed entering the water with a controlled descent. The UAP emerged from the water about 17 minutes later and orientated into a sudden and rapid directional flight, beyond the optical range of the platform monitoring it. The UAP displayed low observability. The UAP was not visible with night vision, IR. That's important, we'll get to, and appeared to jam the targeting capability of the optical platform. The UAP displayed positive lift without the normally associated aerodynamic means for lift and thrust. The signatures typically associated with the propulsion maneuvers observed were absent. In the raw footage, which only Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp have seen, apart from the US government obviously, is it goes across an Iraqi base and then goes over a body of water, goes under whatever for a couple of minutes and comes back up with a controlled ascent, apart from the descent, and that's the footage. Now we're going to watch it on Jeremy Corbell's YouTube and we'll get into some stuff. October 2018 US Joint Operations Base at Iraq. Now it said 2017 in the description, so I don't know what's true of that. But there's the Jellyfish UAP. And you can see in the background, there's two dogs, tick them off the board. And for whatever reason, he's filming on a monitor. Now, never do this. Never do this, right? That's one thing. And then it zooms out to a wider angle lens. And it's just slowly drifting across the base. And this is at the end of the footage and it basically ends here. And that's the footage. So as you can see, it goes across the base. Just looks like it's floating across the base. Doesn't look like it's being propelled. There's no propellant being exhausted from the back of it. It's not using conventional methods of movement as we know it for aerial vehicles. So I decided to take it into some editing software. I stabilized the footage a number of times to get a clear picture. I also messed with the angle so we have a side-on view instead of what we're looking at a monitor. Now the first problem is whenever you film something from your PC monitor, it gets degraded in quality. I don't know why they haven't uploaded the raw footage myself. You know, that's if you wanted to prove that, look, this is a possible UAP, you'd upload the raw footage. I think you would. I'm not saying that's a problem with Jeremy Corbell or George Knapp. For whatever reasons, they didn't do that. But the only footage we have is the filmed from possibly a mobile phone or a camera, filming directly onto the monitor. Now that loses quality in the first place drastically. So there's that. So this is my version, which I wanted to stabilize it. I haven't zoomed in or nothing. This is how the video starts. And we're going to have a look at some stuff. Now the wobbling is, like I said, it's because I've stabilized it, but in the center you can see the Jellyfish UAP. Now a number of things. When it gets there, you can see the clarity and the definition of the edges of the jellyfish. We'll call it the jellyfish, right? Which tells me something. Now everything in the background is very obviously out of focus. Except for the two cute dogs right there. And it's flashing in between. Now this is filmed with an IR camera. Very likely on an aerial drone or a helicopter. They said it was filmed on an observational platform. It could be up in a tower high up, you know, to survey the base. It quite possibly could be that. But it's more than likely a drone for doing surveillance nearby and just coming back to base or something, you know. That's, like I said, that's what it looks like to me. This is it zoomed out to a different wide angle. And they track it going across the base. Now my biggest take from this, to me it looks like a stain on the lens, right? The main cameras, infrared cameras that the US government uses on their aerial vehicles is the L3 Harris. To be more specific, the L3 Harris Westcam X. This is what that camera looks like. It has many modules on it. It has IR sensors, two focal lengths, two different cameras at the focal length. One for a wider angle, one for a closer angle. And that's a guesstimate of what camera that is. Like I said, that isn't a fact. That is just one of the main cameras that aerial vehicles in the US government use. Now the first thing I noticed on this is if you go to the beginning, I'm going to zoom in, right, to roughly there. Now if you look at the rotational angle of that Jellyfish UAP, you got its front dangly bits, we'll call it back dangly bits, and it's whatever the hell that is going up on top. To me it looks like a stain on the camera glass protecting the lens. That's what it looks like to me, because that constantly stays in focus, whereas the background is slightly out of focus. It's not that much out of focus, but slightly out of focus. Now when you get to the end of this footage, hopefully I'm zooming in on this, it looks the rotation hasn't changed. But let's just say that base was at least 2 kilometers wide. And that camera was tracking it the entire 2 kilometers across the base. I don't know if it's 2 kilometers, I'm just, like I said, I'm making a guesstimate. If that base is at least 2 kilometers wide, it's tracking that jellyfish right across the base. Now, one, if it was a drone a couple of kilometers out surveying the base, you should be able to see some rotation from that jellyfish from the beginning of the video to the end of the video, because it goes a long way. It's parallaxing at the back, obviously, but it's going with the camera. Sometimes it goes off center of the camera. That's what I think is because the camera on the L3 highest res cam is moving, you know, because it's trying to track this object. And one of the descriptions in the explanation for the Jeremy Corbell video is that they couldn't track the object in IR, and it wasn't visible in normal camera mode. And what I think, this was taken at night, by the way, right? So obviously it's not going to be visible in normal camera mode. But what I think is going on, the reason they couldn't track it is because they were trying to track something a couple of kilometers away from the camera. Whereas that, what looks like a stain, was about that close to the camera. So it's not going to be able to track something that close, obviously, because it's focusing on a couple of kilometers away. And like I said, the reason why it looks so in focus is because these type of cameras, they don't have like a focal length where they'll focus on a background, and the background will be the foreground will be completely out of focus, because these tend to have not an infinite focus, but because the range they need to survey, they tend to have a large focal range to cover all distances in one shot. That's what they tend to have, these kind of cameras. But from the beginning to the end of that footage, there's no, if that was being surveyed a couple of kilometers above the base, you should be able to see rotation of the object as the camera tracked it. But there's none of that. That to me tells me that it is something very close to the camera lens. That's my first thing. Secondly, an oil stain will show up in IR where it won't in normal everyday photography, if it's on the glass close to the camera I'm talking about. So that to me right there looks like an oil stain, because there's no rotation in the object as it goes across the base. It only shows up in IR light. They couldn't track the object because, like I said, they weren't focusing that close to the camera. They were focusing a couple of kilometers away from the camera. That's why they couldn't track it. And that's my observational, logical thinking on that footage. But in the description, they say after it crossed the base, it crossed over a body of water, went underwater for a couple of minutes, then shot up and went shot off again, out of range of the camera. I searched everywhere on the internet for that footage. It doesn't exist. Doesn't exist on the internet, put it that way. Now, Jeremy Corbell said he was handed this by an insider in the US intelligence, and you know, he was told to keep it secret. Don't say the guy's name. Obviously, you know, you keep your sources secret. But if that footage exists and you want people to believe what you're showing, look, this is a UAP, this is an alien or whatever, possibly not an alien, it's a UAP, you know. You'd show the rest of the footage where it goes underwater and floats up and out of the water and shoots off. But that footage doesn't exist. I've looked everywhere, and I mean everywhere on the internet. That footage does not exist. So that to me, on my opinion, it's not a debunking, it's just my opinion, that to me looks like, I'm saying an oil stain, but it could be a stain of anything, you know, from people working on the camera before launch, people maintaining the camera if it's on an observational platform on the top of a tower. It could be a piece of bird shit. It could be any one of those things. But I don't think that's anything flying over the base. I think it's a stain on the camera glass protecting the lens myself. But anyway, now on to the next piece of footage I want to cover, which we covered in a live stream of mine a couple of weeks back. Someone asked, can you look at this footage of the UFO which was caught a couple of weeks ago over Toledo, Ohio. And we started watching it and I thought, oh, that's interesting. But we're going to look at some stuff. And this is the conclusion we came to in the live stream as well, but I thought I'd add it in here because not everyone would have seen that.
It's going viral. A local wedding videographer captured what appeared to be an unidentified flying object in the Toledo night sky, and it's stirring a lot of conversation online from TikTok to Facebook. Shane Rickard is a busy man this time of year, with fall weddings taking up much of his time.
It's blowing up on TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff.
But this time, a video he recorded with a drone while working as a videographer at a wedding near downtown Toledo is going viral.
So we shot all day long. We take the drone up at the end of the night and we're filming.
It wasn't until later on Rickard discovered he captured what appears to be an object moving rapidly in the sky.
I'm looking through footage, and the clip that gone viral is what I see that next morning, and I don't know what it is, you know, so I posted online. Everybody's freaking out over it.
So this is the footage in question. When this was showed to me, I was watching it and I thought, that's interesting. You see it fly across the sky, there's a jet plume behind it, and it's going extremely fast, faster than any of our vehicles can do right now in the air. Faster acceleration, I should say. And this is the guy who took it. He was making a wedding video, B-roll for a wedding, obviously. And he was on top of a building or a tower, getting some extra footage to show, you know, look how good this wedding was, that kind of thing. Now, I don't know his expertise in photography. Maybe he's just started out, or maybe he knows, actually. When we go to his actual TikTok, he's uploaded the actual raw footage. So this is the actual real footage on his TikTok. Now, he filmed it in portrait mode, obviously, so it's not as clear. So I've rotated it, and it does lose some quality, unfortunately. But that right there, if I'm zooming in on it, is the UFO. And it's stationary, and then it zooms to the right just as the camera is panning to the right. So it's just standing there. It's sort of floating there actually, and then as the camera tilts, or pans I should say, it goes across the sky. But the movement of the UFO only moves when the camera starts panning to the right. That is a classic refraction of light on the camera lens of the drone he's using. Because the UFO is still, or like sort of like just there as the drone is slowly moving forward, and it's only when it starts to pan is when the UFO moves across the sky at a fast rate. It's basically light bouncing off the lens, the convex lens of the drone, the light from down below. One of the lights in the cityscape somewhere is pointing not directly at the lens, but close to the lens enough for it to refract on the concave lens. Concave! And yeah, that's all that is. And the photographer should have known this, if you ask me. When you look at it in full view, it's very obvious to me, but yeah, that's the Toledo, Ohio UFO. And I'm saying that's debunked, by the way. That's not an opinion, that is a fact, what's happening there. It's refraction of light. But anyway, do you know what, I'm actually going to leave it there for now. I'm going to do the breakdown at a later date, so I can dedicate more time to look the UFOs footage we're looking at. But I did want to cover those two UFOs, because they're the most recent ones, which they initially intrigued me. But I think there's a very logical explanation to the first one, the Jellyfish UFO, and the second one is fully debunked as refraction of light. I want to believe, trust me, I want to believe. I am firmly in the camp that it's a possibility that it could be happening. Unfortunately, there's a lot of disinformation out there. You look at channels like Third Phase of Moon, they show the most fakest stuff every single time. You know, they love what they're doing, and maybe they're in on the joke, who knows, but yeah, there's a lot of channels, you know, pushing disinformation out there, which is unfortunate. It happens in the paranormal as well. But those two ones I really wanted to cover. I know this is only a short video, but those are the ones which interested me the most. I'll get to the proper breakdown at a later date, but yeah. But let me know in the comments, do you think I'm a bit off with my explanations? Do you think they're the most realist things you've ever seen? Let me know in the comments down below. Am I wrong? You're allowed to tell me I'm wrong, by the way. I won't bite back at you. I'll mansplain to you. I won't. That's it. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you like this video. Leave a sub if you're new to my channel. I do this quite often. And I'll be back soon. Don't know when, don't know how. Anyway, thanks for watching, and bye for now.